for the arts.
American Shorts, new work from regional theater.
Here and there in the American countryside are still a few people with memories of a different time entirely. When, in a word, porches still had people on them, talking across railings from house to house, rather than crouching in the dark, peering at the screen. There is another country in these old guys' heads, one they can't return to or quite leave behind.
Hello?
Yeah, it's me. I've got your stuff.
Okay. Yep.
Frederica, listen. I've got something here that's right for you. Would you take care of it for me? It's about a 100-year-old man. The phone number and directions to his place are in there. Give me 20 inches for tomorrow's lifestyle section. And take some pictures of the old fellow while you're out there.
Okay. Go and get that.
Mr. Ryan? Mr. Ryan? Hello? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sneak up on you. I'm Frederica Rose, the newspaper reporter. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk with us, Mr. Ryan.
I never mind talking.
Thank you.
You wanted to ask me something? Well, I never thought they used women for this.
There are a lot of us these days. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, I don't mind. You know, I used to work down a lot of basements, but never inside the house. And that's a woman's job. I suppose they've changed that too. Well, go ahead. I'm not due anywhere. This is my 100th birthday, you know.
I know. Congratulations. That's why we wanted to talk to you.
Oh.
Did you get the letter from the newspaper?
It's probably in on the bureau. Is this gonna be in the paper?
Yes. Is that okay?
I don't see where it would harm anything. I lost my glasses.
Oh,
But
I see.
I'll read that letter some other time. I guess you're surprised I'm 100.
You certainly don't look it.
I got stuck at 60,
Ha.
and I never grew older. 70, they took me for 60, and 80, 90, they took me for 60. But I sure feel like 100. You any idea what it's like to be 100?
Well, actually, that's something I wanted to ask you.
Like nothing else. Except 99.
Well, could you describe it?
Well, no, I don't suppose I could. But you can ask me more questions if you like. I'm not due anywhere.
Gonna have a party?
A party? No. They're all dead and buried.
I understand you were never married.
No, I never met a woman who would have me.
Now, Mr. Ryan, I find that very hard to believe. You're still a great-looking man.
Oh. Well, I was always good-looking. But to tell you the truth, women made me nervous.
Really? Do you have any idea why?
No.
Well, surely there must have been some reason why.
Well, they always seemed peculiar.
In what way?
Well, I don't know, the usual way. And what about you?
Married? No. I was until recently, so I kind of forget I'm not married anymore. So.
Oh. Well, look, I didn't mean
No, that's fine. So, this was farmland.
Oh, yes. We made mostly milk. And apples and pears, and Sheridan's orchard was down there, but it was mostly pasture and milk.
Did you farm?
Well, I worked on many a farm, but I didn't have a place of my own, no.
Why not? I understand your family had thousands of acres.
Well, about 6,000, more or less, but I had 5 sisters, you know.
I don't understand.
Well, every time they wanted a new hat, they sold 200 or more acres, and we ended up with a heap of hats. What I have left now are these 3 acres I'm a setting on. Would you rather work for a Jew or Italian?
Well, I don't know. For whom would you rather work?
Jew. Jews will pay you.
I'm Jewish.
Oh, I didn't know. Oh, well, I meant no offense. After all, you couldn't help it.
So you're of Irish descent?
Well, I guess so. The name's Ryan.
Right. So did your people come over from Ireland during the potato famine in 1848?
No, much earlier than that. The regular family. Time for my morning snack. Oh, help yourself.
Thank you.
Coffee?
Yes, please. That'd be nice. So I understand that you worked up until your 90s? What were you doing?
That would depend on who was watching. You know, when the farms give out, I work mostly for the city, mowing lawns and raking leaves in the fall. But in the later years, I worked for Dr. Campbell, first house on the bottom of the hill.
Do you think I could talk to him?
Well, yeah, you could try, but he died 3 years ago. Never be missed.
He didn't treat you well?
Well, he didn't treat anybody. He was tighter than a witch's... Well, we won't go into that.
I'm interested in what it was like living here 50 years ago. Could you talk about that?
50 years wasn't so different. 70 was, though. And 80s and 90s was.
You can remember what it was like 90 years ago?
Well, of course I do. What do you want to know?
For instance, these roads must have been dirt.
Oh, yes. Well, the state never got around to building it until about 32, 33. That was WPA. My brother worked on that.
What did you do in the winter? I mean, when there was snow, there were no plows then?
Oh, you never bothered with the road when it snows. You went across country with the horses. It was quicker. You know, we had to get into town with the milk every 3 days, you see.
What about in really deep snow?
What we do is start here and you shovel in front of the horses till you get to the woods.
It takes 30 minutes today to get to town. So how long would that have taken you?
In the winter, about, it takes 4.5 hours.
What would you do if you got hungry?
You might carry a chunk of smoked bacon in your pocket, but maybe not, though. Well, that's it. Time for feeding the rabbit.
I notice you have a lot of junk out front.
Huh? Oh, that's not junk. That's nothing. I used to have real junk, but it got so I couldn't lift it. Anyway, the state police was giving me so much trouble, I had to give it up.
Why were they giving you trouble?
Well, you have to have a license to sell junk, especially automobile parts.
Well, couldn't you get one?
I don't believe in it. I didn't want the U.S. government to have my name. You know, they asked me to work for the school one year, and I was mowing lawns or something like that, and they wanted me to put my name down for Social Security. Next thing you know, they'd be coming around for income tax.
So you're not on any government form?
No, the U.S. government don't know. I didn't want them to have my name. They don't even know I exist. And not the FBI or the CIA. You know, I've been around for 100 years, and not one of them even knowed I was born.
That's kind of wonderful.
Yeah.
So you don't believe in any form of taxation?
Let me see. No, I can't think of any.
Now, what about the wars? Were you in any of the wars?
Well, no, I missed all of those. I was either too young or too old. I had a friend, this is before World War I, and he was 2 years older than I, and they took him for the war. And when he came home, I went over to him, I says, you were in New York and France and all over? And he says, well, you didn't miss anything.
But surely the city must have held some attraction for you as a young man.
I went to New York once, but there was no place to sit down.
But what about the shows?
Well,
Or the women? I mean, you must have had some curiosity.
Well, I don't think I should say something like this in front of a lady.
Go ahead.
Well, they all thought that they were dancers, the women in New York.
Dancers?
Yeah, they would dance on the left leg and then they dance on the right leg and made a living between them. Oh, well, I meant no offense.
That's okay. I asked and you told me. So what about newspapers? Did you get to read any?
Well, every few days. You know, I went up to Centerville to sell my junk up there. And, you know, in my 80s then or thereabouts, and I had this great big Oldsmobile rear end sticking out of the back of my trunk. I couldn't get it in the car because it was too big. And I went in and got myself a loaf of bread. And when I came out, there was the state cop, John Burnside. He was staring down at the rear end. And naturally, he knew that I didn't have a license to sell auto parts. So I started across to get into my car. And he says, "Hiya, Bob." And I said, "Hiya, John." And he says, "Nice day." And I said, "It was." And that was the end of my junk business.
What did you used to see from this porch?
Well, Isaacson's farm was over there about a mile. Nothing between here and the barns. And Jonas Beans was around that way over there. Couldn't see his place through the trees. World War II, I made a living hunting fox. $4 a skin.
How many could you get in a day?
Oh, as many as 3 a night. You hunt fox at night. One time I was walking around that road up there hunting for fox, and we had the bright moon. And I remember thinking at the time the way they were bombing London, and especially on bright nights. And suddenly I hear sawing.
Sawing?
Yeah, sawing. Bzz, bzz, bzz. Well, I was walking along the road up there. Who could be sawing in the middle of the night? And I look through the trees, and there's this Polak. He's cutting off his horse's head right there in the middle of the road.
Good God. Why?
Well, the horse dropped dead, so he didn't have any other horse or a tractor to get it out of there, so he cut it all up for his pigs.
Wow. Where was this?
Right up there, where the piano player lives. It's no mansion like it is now. The Polak kept pigs under his porch.
No, there's no pigs under that porch now.
No. No pigs allowed in town anymore. No roosters either. Liable to wake people up before noon. I don't know why it reminds me, but Bruce Tynan had his farm up there, too. And his father's name was Charlie. Well, Charlie ate nothing but smoked oysters. No teeth, you see. And Charlie stank a lot. Especially on a hot day when he had the smoked oysters in his pocket. And that's neither here nor there. But old Bruce, he got married, and then this one weekend, he had a shivaree.
What's a shivaree?
Don't know a shivaree?
No, I have never even heard that word.
Wedding celebration.
Huh.
It went on and on and on. It would go one night until everybody dropped out, you know, and one night and into the next day and the next day. And Bruce was kind of proper, you know. He went to church and all. And he was trying to make up for the people he killed in World War I. And I reached out my arm and knocked over a bottle of whiskey. It went all over the floor, and Bruce got up and he looked down at the puddle on the floor and he said, "I would rather see a church burn down than to waste a bottle of whiskey." Oh, Bruce.
How about you? Did you go to church? Are you religious?
Well, my father did in the wintertime.
Just in the winter?
Well, there was too much to do in the good weather.
Oh, I see.
One winter, it was so cold. Well, this was before I was born. My father was, well, he didn't come down to church for about 5 Sundays or so. So the church sent up a committee of people to see if there might be something wrong. And when they got there was my grandfather laid out in the parlor. He'd been dead for 3 weeks, you know, and it was so cold, the ground was frozen 3 feet down. And my father couldn't dig the grave.
Must have been very cold in your house in the winter.
You can say that.
But still, it sounds like a wonderful life.
Well, sure were a lot of characters. There was somebody peculiar in every house. Well, I don't know if they're still there, and I don't know them anymore. But old Stanley Beach, he ran the general store, and one day this woman came, Russell Pound's widow. And, well, she was well-to-do, and she always had to have her stuff delivered. Well, Stanley Beach, when I was a young fella, I worked for him at time when he needed extra help and things. And when this woman came in, she wanted a spool of sewing thread. And Beach says, will that be all? And she said, yes. Would you deliver it? And he says, why, certainly, Mrs. Pounds. I'll be very happy to. And she leaves. And he goes out to his team, and the horses must have been 15 hands high. And he drives out to her house. He puts the spool of thread on the wagon bed, and don't you know, he backs that enormous wagon around right back up to her front door. And he knocks on the door, and she comes to the door, and she opens it. And he looks up at the spool of thread and said, where do you want it? Where do you want it? I don't know. You just don't hear things like that anymore.
Tell me, Mr. Ryan, when you look out there and you see all those cars and all those people, what goes through your mind?
Well, I do wonder sometimes, being as how there's so many of them, and they're moving so fast. I wonder how they ever get to meet anybody.
Do you mind if I take a picture?
Oh, yes, I don't mind at all. Nobody takes pictures of me these days.
Well, I'm quite sure you haven't seen one of these before.
No, what is it?
It's a camera. It's a digital camera. So,
What will they think of next?
ready? And now one with the two of us together.
All right. How are you going to do that?
It's a self-timer.
You mean that's going to take with nobody back there? That's amazing. Oh,
Happy birthday, Mr. Ryan. Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you.
when I was very young, I was very curious about what existed before I was born. Who was who and where they came from and what they thought and how they dressed and all that. It's a great loss if you don't have any past. I think leaves a kind of almost a wound that makes life so discontinuous. I guess it's true of more people than not. When I moved here half a century ago, it was agricultural, mostly. And the countryside here was filled with people who were known to each other over a period of generations. And each one had a quite unique character. And it was full of oddballs and nuts and straight people and all kinds of folks who had no qualms about saying just what they thought most of the time. So they rather cherished their individual characterizations instead of trying to fit in all the time. As they disappeared, which they did, to be supplanted by people from the cities who moved into the countryside to get away from town, and it became a kind of suburbia. I think it's happened all over the United States pretty much. And oddly, the people lost their individuation a lot. It became now a little more difficult to tell them apart, for me anyway. And out of that concept grew this play, really, because this old guy, who is really based on a lot of old guys I used to know, they're all dead now. And those guys simply vanished over the years. So this character in Mr. Ryan is a kind of mix of several of them. One of whom indeed lived to 100, all alone, and died alone. See, old people, once upon a time, were very useful. They were at home and they did jobs at home, helping with children and cooking and cleaning and God knows what else, and being a source of some kind of continuity for the psychological health of the people. At some point, the industrialization of the country made it impossible for those families to remain at home, first of all. And secondly, when they had no function anymore, when we, old people, don't have any more function, they're bound to get devaluated. And because we do value people by what they earn or what they contribute or what they amass. And if somebody passes that point, he loses his value, both to the society and probably to himself. When that happened exactly, I really don't know, but I suppose it must have been maybe only in the last 75 years. It's not that far back.
I think that this piece does say a lot. I mean, the people who've been around for longer than we have are a repository of an extraordinary kind of information. When you've got the three-dimensionality of a real-life person who can explain not just what it was like, but from a specific point of view, it's so sweet and so vibrant. Take some time to listen. You might actually learn something.
She expects to visit some old guy that be a curio for her readers. And it turns out his humanity is what really begins to attach itself to her. And I think she begins to glimpse some importance to this old codger. In a wider sense, importance for her personally. Maybe she can see herself growing old for the first time. And what maybe is missing in her life. that is a past, a usable past.
Well, I think that anytime you take a moment to slow down, you give your heart a chance to be stirred. And that's what happens in this encounter. I mean, we conceal, I think, our vulnerability with our pace.
I think pay attention to older people. You think they're stupid sometimes, but they're not. They're way ahead of you. We had a friend by the name of George Abbott, who was one of the great producers of all times for Broadway plays. And I was in 3 hits in a row for Mr. Abbott. He was 98, and we went to his birthday party. And watching him, if you're going to play an old man that's 100 years old, I think you'd go into all kinds of contortions, you know, trying to make believe that you're 100 years old and do all this stuff. But George Abbott didn't act old. He just was. What happened to him, he died when he was 107 years old. His legs just give out, you know. And he also, from 98 on, he directed 2 Broadway plays. Well, watching this man, you're not watching an old man, you're just watching somebody grow old. And that's what I tried to get into this role. When I have to go, there's a tombstone out here I'd like to borrow. I'm going home. So we don't worry about death at all. I never did in my entire life. I have no fear of anything, so everything is calm. Be happy, tell people that you're happy, and make them happy too.
I know that it's almost impossible for a straight play to get on Broadway, especially by a new author, but it doesn't have to be a new author, it could be anybody. The investment is anywhere from $750,000 to $2 million and up. Well, this poor little play's got to support a veritable industry, and that can't work, and it doesn't work, so they don't do those plays. They are done occasionally by off-Broadway or regional theaters. However, what I hear is that the regional theater's in trouble because the costs are high and they can't raise their ticket prices indefinitely. So, and their money that they've gotten from subsidies of various kinds is smaller than ever, etc. So the whole art is in trouble. Theater is amusement, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's that the other thing is not allowed in. I have no objection to musicals and having fun and all that. But there is another kind of theater that needs a space in this whole panoply of shows. But I'm afraid that one way or another, it's an art that will have to be partially subsidized if it's to exist. I mean, we already do that with opera. We don't expect an opera to support itself. It couldn't. We do it with classical music. The orchestras get some kind of subvention. We do it with art museums. We do it with all kinds of art. But the theater, we think, should support itself. And the reason for that, I suspect, is because now and again, a theater makes a lot of money.
What the Sundance Festival is to filmmakers, the Humana Festival really is to playwrights.
It
offers the chance for critics and producers from not just all over the United States, but all over the world to get together and see the newest American drama, hear the new exciting voices in American drama.
Coming up, speaking with Dante.
Midway on my life's journey, I found myself in dark woods, the right road lost. To tell about those woods is hard, so tangled and rough and savage that thinking of it now, I feel the old fear stirring. Death is hardly more bitter.
Sometimes you forget that there's a place for you in this in the American theater when you're first starting out. And this is very generous of them to let us know that there is a place for us.
And plays that have premiered here in Louisville are seen all around the world today. Extremities was a tremendously powerful play. Crimes of the Heart, Agnes of God.
Beth Henley was come out of here, and the mysterious Jane Martin.
The Marcia Normans and Tony Kushners and William Mastro-Simone.
We tour a lot around the world and in the States, and this has been a real regular home for us and a place to come into this very room that we're in and create brand new work from scratch. This is a celebration.
There have been more than 250 plays produced in the 23-year history of the Humana Festival. We get 3,000 or more plays a year. I think we peaked one year at 5,000. And from that, we narrow it down to somewhere between 10 and 25 plays that get produced each year.
This is going to be controversial. And the child...
I think new plays are important because they give us permission to talk about our own times. It's great to do classical plays. I think they help us understand things that are universal and our connection with the past and our connection with other cultures, and that's extremely important. But new plays allow us to discover what is particular to our own time as well, and to empathize with people on the planet who are having different experiences than us.
There just weren't a lot of stages where the young playwrights could find their home. And so we put little mentions in classified sections around the country saying, listen, if you have a play and want somebody to read it and possibly do it, why don't you send it to us? And I think that first year we got something like 6,700 scripts. Not only was there a lot of good work, but it was incredibly touching, just that creative urge that drove so many Americans to want to write a play. I think we got very lucky in the beginning because one of the first two plays we did was D.L. Coburn's The Gin Game, and who happened to be sitting in the audience, I think on the 7th or 8th performance, but Hume Cronin and Jessica Tandy. And the play went on from there to become an enormous success all around the country. And then also early in the process, there were plays like Beth Henley's Crimes of the Heart, which became a film, William Mastro-Simone's Extremities, which played widely and also became a film.
Many theaters do plays that originate at Humana. So they are feeding the new play repertory in the United States. You could name probably 20 to 25 superb regional theaters in America. They are the breeding ground for new American drama. And thank God for them, because I think if it were left up to the marketplace of commercial New York, what you'd be seeing are musical spectaculars and little else.
The city, or a significant part of the city, comes alive when the festival comes to Louisville, and thousands of Louisvillians come down to see those plays, and hundreds of people from other places around the world come to see those plays. They then get printed and published and used in other venues. Those plays, some of them will live on for a long time after I'm gone.
The great work has always been the key element, always focusing something which was local and somehow through talent became global and internationally recognized.
The thing that you really do for a writer is not to nurture them on a page-by-page basis, but simply to encourage them, to give them the actors, to give them the lights, to give them the props and the costumes, and they'll find their own voice in the midst of that.
God's Man in Texas is set in a megachurch in Houston, Texas. It's a megachurch, meaning a church of thousands and thousands and thousands of members with lots of programs, and in other words, it's not just a church with a sanctuary. It was built by one man who's 81, and he's not going to be able to run it forever. A younger pastor is recruited to come in. The church wants to see if he can be a replacement for the older man when the time comes. What happens from there is the conflict in the play. Younger guy wants older guy's job.
The title of my play is called 40-Minute Finish, and it's about two young grocery clerks who are cleaning up after a rather awful incident where an older gentleman has a stroke and cracks his head open on in the bread aisle, and as they're cleaning up the blood, kind of talking about the ideas or mortality, and in specific their own mortality and how their ideas of what death and dying is going to be forever changed by this person that they just don't know, and never will know.
I think that one of the problems for the theater has been that there have only been certain spaces in which it is accepted that a play takes place. Seeing as not everybody's coming into the theaters, you know, in any community in America, probably only 2% of the total population attends the theater, if that. So that means that there might be some other ways to reach people. Who knows, we'll inscribe them on the back of glasses next, I'm not sure. Well, we're doing some things this year. We're doing the text play, which is a play written on a T-shirt. We're doing the phone play, where you simply pick up a phone and overhear a play.
The drug I took, how long was I out? 3 days. You said you'd call. 3 days? I've been here. Dig me up. I'm buried alive, and you've gone back to work already.
We're doing a car play, where you get in the back seat of the car, and the play takes place in the front seat of the car.
3 hamburger Happy Meals, 2 small cherry Cokes, a large chocolate milk. I'll have chicken McNuggets, medium fries, a supersized half decaf with sweet and low. Don't forget to ask for straws and extra ketchup. And what do you want?
I want to kill Barney. Then I want to kill myself. Ouch! All right, who threw it? Which one of you, okay?
Sweetie, you're supposed to pull up to the window and get our food.
We're not going anywhere until one of these brats tells me who threw it. Now, who looks guilty? Which one of you? This is the last warning. Next time I'm coming back there, I'm taking off my belt, and God help us all.
Honey, shouldn't you get help?
Help? I don't need help. I need a vacation.
We're on a vacation, remember? I meant for the car.
Oh, all right, help for the car. Are you insane? Do you think that I'm just going to walk up to one of these strange guys out here and ask them for help?
Well, why not? What are you afraid of?
Challenged. I pay cash money to be. I don't necessarily want to be totally entertained.
I definitely tell when you are and when you aren't. Anything. I wanted to be entertained that night, and by God, I wasn't being entertained.
By God, I wasn't being entertained. By God, I wasn't being entertained.
But there were some good things too.
This piece is so curious because it is about talking about being watched and about watching. We're all audience.
We dance around it, all that messy stuff, and they just seem to dance into it.
As the name might indicate, it's about the feeling that exists
Not only that she provides you with new technique, new theory, and new experience, but that probably it's going to work its way sort of toward the main arteries of the theatrical body over the next 20 years. You just happen to be there a little early.
It's actually the only place you can go and create work without the commercial constraints. It's not about making money, it's about making art.